The station hung in space like a jewel against the darkness. It orbited a neutron star that pulsed with deadly radiation, but the station's shields kept everyone safe inside. This was the Galactic Council's home, where the most powerful species in the galaxy made their decisions. Ambassador Velthar walked through the grand hall with his head held high. His blue skin shimmered under the artificial lights. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he adjusted his diplomatic robes. He had done this walk 100 times before. He was the Crinian Empire's best diplomat, and everyone knew it. The council chamber was massive. 23 seats arranged in a circle, each one holding a representative from a different species. Some looked like insects. Others were made of pure energy. A few breathed methane instead of oxygen. But they all shared one thing: power. These were the rulers of the galaxy, and they had summoned him for a reason. The High Speaker, an ancient being named Tholrax, gestured for Velthar to approach. Tholrax looked like a floating brain, encased in a crystal shell. His voice echoed directly into Velthar's mind. "Ambassador Velthar, we have a mission for you." Velthar bowed respectfully. "I am honored to serve the council." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. The planet looked peaceful, covered in swirling white clouds and vast oceans. Nothing about it seemed special. "This is Earth," Tholrax explained. "A planet in the outer reaches of the Orion Arm. Its dominant species calls themselves humans." Velthar studied the planet. "I have not heard of them." "Few have," another council member said. "This one was a reptilian creature from the Skarax system. They only achieved faster than light travel 3 years ago. They are new to the galaxy." "Then why do they concern the council?" Velthar asked. The hologram changed. It now showed graphs and data streams. Numbers scrolled past too quickly to read. Warning symbols blinked in red. "Our monitoring systems have detected unusual activity," Tholrax said. "In just 3 years, humans have established colonies in 6 different star systems. They build ships faster than any species we have observed. Their expansion rate is concerning." Velthar felt a flicker of interest. 6 systems in 3 years? That is impressive for a new species. "Impressive or dangerous?" the Skarax representative hissed. "We do not know their intentions. We do not know if they are peaceful or aggressive. We need answers." Tholrax's mental voice grew stronger. "That is why we are sending you, Ambassador. You will travel to Earth. You will meet with their leaders. You will assess whether humanity poses a threat to galactic peace. Then, you will return and report your findings." Velthar nodded slowly. He had done this many times before. Every few decades, a new species discovered faster than light travel and joined the galactic community. Most were peaceful. Some needed guidance. A few had to be contained. It was always the same process. "I understand," he said. "When do I depart?" "Immediately," Tholrax replied. "A ship is waiting for you. We have already transmitted standard greeting protocols to the humans." Velthar bowed again and left the chamber. As he walked to the docking bay, he felt confident. He had negotiated peace between the Vryn and the Kolthari after their 300-year war. He had convinced the Hive Collective to stop assimilating primitive species. He had even managed to establish trade relations with the notoriously xenophobic Korvan Empire. Humans would be easy. They were just another young species taking their first steps into the stars. He would assess them, write his report, and be home within a month. His ship was small but elegant. It had everything he needed: a private chamber, a communication suite, and advanced sensors for studying Earth before he landed. The pilot was a silent automated system, which suited him fine. Velthar preferred to think during long journeys. The journey to Earth took 8 days. Velthar spent his time reviewing what little information the Council had gathered about humans. Most of it came from intercepted radio transmissions and basic orbital scans. Humans were bipedal mammals. They had no natural weapons, like claws or venom, no thick armor plating, no enhanced senses. They were physically weak compared to most spacefaring species. The average human stood only about 6 feet tall and weighed less than 200 pounds. They were fragile creatures. Their technology seemed basic. They used primitive fusion drives for their ships. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. Nothing sophisticated. Nothing that could threaten an advanced species. But something puzzled Velthar. Despite their physical weakness and basic technology, humans had spread across 6 star systems in just 3 years. How was that possible? Most species took decades to establish even one successful colony. The logistics alone were staggering. He made a note to ask about this when he met their leaders. On the 8th day, his ship entered Earth's solar system. The sensors immediately detected activity. Dozens of human ships moved between planets. Mining operations on asteroids, a space station orbiting Mars, construction platforms building new vessels. Velthar transmitted the standard diplomatic greeting. Within minutes, he received a response. The face that appeared on his screen was distinctly human. Smooth skin, 2 eyes, a small nose, hair on top of the head. The human smiled, showing flat white teeth. "Greetings, Ambassador Velthar," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "My name is Deho. I am a diplomatic representative of the United Earth government. We are honored by your visit." Velthar returned the greeting. "Thank you for receiving me, Deho. The Galactic Council wishes to establish formal relations with humanity. We are eager to join the galactic community," Deho replied. His smile never wavered. "I have prepared accommodations for you in our capital city, Sol. If you transmit your ship's specifications, we will provide landing coordinates." "Excellent," Velthar said. "I look forward to meeting you in person." The transmission ended. Velthar sat back in his chair and studied the data his sensors had collected. Everything seemed normal. The humans appeared friendly and organized. Their infrastructure was developing rapidly but not alarmingly so. He felt his earlier confidence return. This would be a simple mission. He would land, meet with their leaders, assess their capabilities, and return to the Council with a favorable report. Humanity would be welcomed into the galactic community as a minor member species. In a few centuries, they might even earn a seat on the Council itself. Velthar's ship descended through Earth's atmosphere. He watched through the viewport as clouds parted to reveal the surface below. Green forests, blue oceans, brown mountains. It was a beautiful planet, full of life and color. The city of Sol appeared on the horizon. Towers of glass and steel reached toward the sky. Lights twinkled in the gathering dusk. Flying vehicles moved through organized traffic lanes. It reminded him of cities on other developed worlds. His ship landed on a designated platform near the city center. As the boarding ramp extended, Velthar took a deep breath and straightened his robes. He was ready. 2 humans waited at the bottom of the ramp. One was Deho, whom he had spoken with earlier. The other was a female human with long, dark hair tied back in a neat style. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Velthar," Deho said, bowing slightly. "This is my assistant, Jiwan. She will help coordinate your visit." Jiwan bowed as well. "We have prepared a schedule for you, Ambassador. We hope you will find your stay comfortable and informative." Velthar descended the ramp and returned their bows. The gesture seemed to please them. Their smiles grew wider. "Thank you for your hospitality," Velthar said. "I am eager to learn about your remarkable species." Deho gestured toward a waiting vehicle. "Then let us begin. We have much to show you." Then, as they drove into the city, Velthar looked out the window at the humans going about their lives. They seemed peaceful, happy, ordinary. He had no idea how wrong he was. The vehicle moved smoothly through Sol's streets. Velthar sat in the back with Deho, while Jiwan drove. Through the windows, he watched the city pass by. Humans walked on sidewalks, talking and laughing. Children played in parks. Street vendors sold food from small carts. Everything seemed normal and peaceful. "Your city is quite beautiful," Velthar said. Deho smiled. "Thank you. Sol has existed for over 2,000 years. It has been destroyed and rebuilt many times, but it always survives." Velthar found that statement odd. "Destroyed? By natural disasters?" "Sometimes," Deho replied. "Other times by war. But those days are behind us now. Humanity has been at peace for 80 years. 80 years seemed like a short time to Velthar, but he said nothing. They arrived at a tall building made of glass and steel. Deho explained it was a government facility where Velthar would stay during his visit. The room they showed him was comfortable, with a large bed and a window overlooking the city. "Rest tonight," Deho said. "Tomorrow we will begin your tour. We want you to see everything Earth has to offer." That night, Velthar stood at his window and watched the city lights. Sol never seemed to sleep. Even in the darkness, vehicles moved through the streets. Buildings glowed with electric light. He could see the outlines of massive towers in the distance, some still under construction. For a species that only reached space 3 years ago, humans built quickly, too quickly. It made him curious. The next morning, Jiwan arrived early with breakfast. She brought him a tray of human food. Small triangular pieces of rice wrapped in seaweed, strips of cooked meat, colorful vegetables, a bowl of soup. "We were not sure what you could eat," Jiwan said. "So we brought a variety. Please, try what you like." Velthar's biology could process most carbon-based foods. He tried several items and found them surprisingly pleasant. The humans had mastered the art of combining flavors. "These are delicious," he said. Jiwan smiled brightly. "I am glad. Food is very important to humans. We bond over meals. It is how we show care for each other." After breakfast, Deho arrived and led Velthar to a waiting vehicle. "Today I will show you our city. You will meet ordinary citizens. See how we live. Understand our culture." They visited a marketplace first. Hundreds of humans moved through narrow aisles, buying and selling goods. Velthar saw food, clothing, electronics, and things he could not identify. The vendors called out prices and advertised their products. It was loud and chaotic, but everyone seemed happy. A young human child approached Velthar and stared up at him with wide eyes. The child could not have been more than 5 years old. She showed no fear, only curiosity. "Are you an alien?" the child asked. "Yes," Velthar replied. "I come from very far away. Do you have friends?" The innocent question made Velthar pause. "Yes, I have many friends." "Good," the child said seriously. "Everyone needs friends." Then she ran back to her mother, who apologized for the interruption. Deho chuckled. Children are honest. They say what they think. Next, they visited a school. Velthar watched human children learning mathematics, languages, and science. The lessons seemed basic but thorough. One class was studying the solar system. Another was learning about Earth's history. The children asked their teachers questions constantly, and the teachers answered patiently. "Education is vital to us," Deho explained. "Every human child receives free schooling until they are 18 years old. We believe knowledge is the key to progress." In the afternoon, they toured a technology center where humans developed new inventions. Velthar saw prototype engines, advanced computers, and medical devices. The humans working there were young and enthusiastic. They explained their projects with pride. One engineer, a young man, showed Velthar a new type of fusion reactor. "We made it 30% more efficient than our previous model. With this, our ships can travel farther on less fuel." Velthar examined the reactor design. It was clever, though still primitive compared to Council technology. "How long did this take to develop?" "No. 6 months, the engineer said. "We iterate quickly, always improving, always pushing forward. 6 months. That was incredibly fast." Most species took years to improve their technology, even slightly. Velthar made a mental note. That evening, Deho took him to a cultural center. Tonight, you will see something special. A performance celebrating our history. The theater was packed with humans. They filled every seat, talking excitedly as they waited. When the lights dimmed, the stage came alive with color and movement. Dancers wearing elaborate costumes moved across the stage. Music played from traditional instruments. The performance told a story about ancient warriors defending their homeland from invaders. The warriors fought with swords and spears. Blood was represented by red ribbons flowing from their costumes. Velthar watched as hundreds of warriors died on stage. Then new warriors replaced them. The battle continued. The music grew louder and more intense. Finally, the defenders won. The invaders retreated. The audience erupted in applause. After the performance, Velthar turned to Deho. That was about war. Yes, Deho said. It is an old story from our history. The warriors defended their land against foreign invasion over 1,000 years ago. They all died, Velthar pointed out. Many did, Deho agreed. But their sacrifice saved their people. We remember them as heroes. Velthar felt troubled. The humans celebrated death and sacrifice. They turned tragedy into entertainment. It seemed strange for a species claiming to be peaceful. That night, back in his room, Velthar reviewed his notes. Everything he had seen suggested humanity was a normal developing species. They were emotional and social. They valued education and progress. Their technology was advancing, but not threateningly so. Yet something felt wrong. Small details that did not fit together properly. The next day, Jiwan took him to a museum. It displayed artifacts from human history, stone tools from primitive times, ancient weapons and armor, paintings depicting battles, maps showing the rise and fall of empires. This section covers the 20th century, Jiwan explained, leading him to a new exhibit. It was a difficult time for humanity. Velthar saw images of massive wars, millions of soldiers fighting across continents, cities reduced to rubble. Photographs of destruction on a scale he found hard to comprehend. How many died? He asked quietly. In the First Great War, about 20 million, Jiwan said. In the Second Great War, over 70 million. Many were civilians, children, families. Velthar stared at a photograph of a destroyed city. Nothing remained but broken buildings and ash. And this was only 80 years ago? Approximately, Jiwan said. The Second Great War ended in 1945. After that, humanity developed weapons so powerful they could destroy entire continents. We nearly used them several times. But we stopped ourselves. We chose peace instead. She led him to another display. It showed something called a nuclear bomb. The description explained it could vaporize an entire city instantly, kill hundreds of thousands in seconds, poison the land for generations. You built these? Velthar asked. Yes, Jiwan said. We built thousands of them. We pointed them at each other for decades. But we never used them again after 1945. We were too afraid of what would happen. Velthar felt cold. This peaceful, smiling species had nearly destroyed themselves within living memory. Their grandparents had witnessed global war. Their parents had lived under the threat of nuclear annihilation. And now, they acted as if none of it mattered. Come, Jiwan said gently. There is more to see. She showed him exhibits about human achievements. Medical breakthroughs that cured diseases. Technologies that improved lives. Art and music from every culture. Acts of kindness and heroism during dark times. We are not perfect, Jiwan admitted. We have done terrible things. But we have also done beautiful things. We learn from our mistakes. We try to be better. That afternoon, Deho returned. They sat in a quiet cafe drinking tea. Velthar watched humans around him, seeing them differently now. These fragile creatures had survived wars that killed millions. They had built weapons capable of destroying their own world. And somehow, they had chosen to stop. Deho, Velthar said carefully. May I ask you something? Of course. Your species only achieved space travel 3 years ago. Yet you have already colonized 6 star systems. How is this possible? Deho smiled and took a sip of tea. We are motivated. When we set our minds to something, we accomplish it quickly. Space was just another challenge to overcome. But the logistics alone. Velthar began. We are good at logistics. Deho interrupted gently. During our world wars, we moved millions of soldiers and supplies across oceans. We built tanks and planes faster than they could be destroyed. We learned how to organize and mobilize on a massive scale. Space colonization uses the same skills. Velthar set down his cup. We are using human skills. Deho corrected. Skills we developed over thousands of years. War taught us many things, Ambassador. We would prefer to use those lessons for peace. The conversation stayed with Velthar as they returned to his building. That evening, he stood at his window again, looking out at Seoul. The city gleamed peacefully in the darkness, but now he saw it differently. This was not just a city. It was a monument to survival. It had been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times. The humans below had ancestors who survived unimaginable horrors. They carried that history with them, hidden beneath their smiles. Velthar thought about the 6 colonized systems, about ships being built faster than seemed possible, about a species that turned war skills toward peaceful expansion. He began to feel the first traces of unease. On the 3rd day of his visit, Deho arrived with unexpected news. Ambassador, we would like to show you something different today. Our military has requested the opportunity to demonstrate our defensive capabilities. Velthar found this odd. Most peaceful species avoided discussing military matters with visitors. Is this necessary? We believe in transparency. Deho said. You are here to assess humanity. Our military is part of who we are. We want you to see everything. They traveled by aircraft this time. The vehicle flew fast and high, crossing over mountains and deserts. Velthar watched the landscape change below them. Earth was beautiful, but harsh. He saw barren deserts where nothing grew. Frozen tundras covered in ice. Volcanic regions still smoking from recent activity. Your planet has many extreme environments, he observed. Yes, Jiwon said from the pilot's seat. Earth has tried to kill us many times. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, meteor impacts. We survive because we adapt. After several hours, they landed in a remote desert region. The land stretched flat and empty in all directions. Heat shimmered off the sand. A military base sat in the distance, its buildings low and functional. A human in uniform waited for them. He was older than Deho and Jiwon, with lines around his eyes and gray in his hair. His uniform bore many decorations. He saluted as they approached. Ambassador Velthar, I am General Hyunwoo. Welcome to our testing facility. Take supply. Velthard. 2M Zine. Ambassador Velthar. Testing facility. Velthar returned the greeting. Thank you for receiving me, General. Hyunwoo smiled, but it was different from Deho's smile. Harder. More controlled. We have prepared several demonstrations for you. Please follow me. They entered the base through heavy security doors. Soldiers stood at attention as they passed. Everything was clean and organized. They arrived at an observation room with thick windows overlooking a vast testing range. First, Hyunwoo said, we will show you our kinetic systems. He pressed a button. On the range below, a large vehicle rolled into position. It looked like a mobile launcher of some kind. A cylindrical object rose from its back, pointing toward the sky. This is a kinetic bombardment system, Hyunwoo explained. We call them God rods. Solid tungsten projectiles dropped from orbital platforms. No explosives needed. Just mass and velocity. The launcher fired. Velthar barely saw the projectile leave. A moment later, a mountain 5 miles away exploded. Rock and dust erupted into the sky. The ground shook beneath their feet. When the dust cleared, the mountain had a crater visible even from this distance. Velthar stared. How much energy was that? Great. Equivalent to a small nuclear weapon, Hyunwoo said casually. But with no radiation. No fallout. Clean destruction. We have hundreds of these platforms in orbit. They can strike any point on Earth within 30 minutes. Why would you need weapons like this? Velthar asked. We built them during our wars, Hyunwoo replied. Before we achieved peace. Now, they serve as deterrents. No one wants to fight when everyone can destroy everyone else. The next demonstration showed automated drones. Small flying machines no larger than Velthar's hand. They moved through the air like insects. Impossibly fast and agile. Autonomous hunter-killers, Hyunwoo said. They use artificial intelligence to identify and eliminate targets. One drone can take down an armored vehicle. A swarm of 1,000 can destroy an entire army. Velthar watched as the drones attacked test targets on the range. They moved with perfect coordination, striking weak points with precision. The targets never had a chance. They decide who to kill? Velthar asked. Within parameters we set, Hyunwoo said. We learned to be careful with artificial intelligence. We had some problems early on. Systems that became too independent, too creative in their killing. We fixed those issues. The statement chilled Velthar. Humans had created artificial intelligence specifically for warfare, and it had worked so well it scared them. Next came biological weapons. Hyunwoo led them to a laboratory section of the base. Scientists in protective suits worked behind sealed glass walls. We can engineer viruses now, Hyunwoo explained. Design them to target specific genetic markers. We could create a disease that only kills people with certain DNA, or one that makes crops fail, or one that alters behavior. Velthar felt sick. You have actually built these? Of course, Hyunwoo said. During our wars, every nation tried to develop better weapons than their enemies. Biological warfare seemed efficient. Kill your enemy without destroying their infrastructure. But we banned their use after we saw the results. What results? Hyunwoo's expression darkened. A test outbreak killed 3 million people before we contained it. The disease mutated in ways we did not predict. It taught us that some weapons are too dangerous even for humans. They returned to the observation room. Hyunwoo brought up holographic displays showing weapon systems Velthar did not understand. Electromagnetic pulse generators, gravity manipulation devices, particle beam weapons, nanomachine swarms, each one more devastating than the last. These are our peacekeeping tools, Hyunwoo said. We have not fought a major war in 80 years. We are very peaceful now. Velthar turned to face the general. These weapons could destroy entire civilizations. You call this peacekeeping? Yes, Hyunwoo said simply. Because everyone knows what will happen if war starts again. These weapons ensure peace through fear. It is not elegant, but it works. Daeho stepped forward. Ambassador, please understand. We are not proud of these weapons. We wish we had never needed to create them. But our history forced us to become very good at warfare. Now we try to use that knowledge to prevent war instead of wage it. Velthar walked to the window. On the range below, more demonstrations continued. Explosions, laser fire, controlled destruction. His mind struggled to process everything he had seen. These humans, with their soft skin and fragile bodies, had built weapons that terrified him. They spoke of millions dead casually, as if it was normal. They had nearly destroyed their own planet, and then pulled back from the edge at the last moment. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked quietly. "Because you need to understand us," Hyunwoo replied. "The Galactic Council sent you to assess if humanity is dangerous. The answer is yes. We are extremely dangerous. But we choose not to be." Velthar turned. "Choice can change." "It can," Hyunwoo agreed. "That is why we are honest about our capabilities. We want the Council to know what we are. We do not want misunderstandings that lead to conflict." They ate lunch in the base cafeteria. Velthar barely tasted the food. Soldiers around them talked and laughed like ordinary people. They did not look like killers. But Hyunwoo had explained that every human received basic military training. Every citizen could fight if needed. "Why does everyone learn combat?" Velthar asked. "History," Daeho said. "There were times when nations were invaded and conquered, when civilians could not defend themselves. We decided that would never happen again. Now every human knows how to survive, how to fight. It is part of our education." To our port. After lunch, Hyunwoo showed them the monument Velthar had seen from the air. It was a black wall, covered in names. Millions of names. "These are the soldiers who died in our wars," Hyunwoo said. "We remember all of them. We teach our children their stories. We never want to forget the cost of conflict." Velthar read some of the names. Each one represented a life lost, a family destroyed. The wall stretched for hundreds of meters in every direction. So many dead. "You honor those who died in wars you now say were mistakes," he said. "They were not mistakes to the soldiers," Hyunwoo replied. "They believed they were protecting their homes, their families, their way of life. We honor their sacrifice, even as we regret the wars that demanded it." The flight back to Seoul was quiet. Velthar stared out the window, lost in thought. Jiwon and Daeho gave him space, understanding that he needed time to process everything. That night, Velthar could not sleep. He sat at the desk in his room and accessed Earth's historical database. He spent hours reading about human conflicts. Wars spanning thousands of years. Empires rising and falling. Genocides. Revolutions. Battles that killed millions. But between the wars, he found something else. Periods of peace, where humans created beautiful things. Art, music, literature, philosophy, science. They built great cities, cured diseases, explored their world. Humans were contradictions. They could be incredibly violent or incredibly kind. They destroyed and created with equal passion. They learned from their mistakes but remembered their victories. One passage caught his attention. It was from an ancient human philosopher. "Man is the most dangerous animal, because he is the only one who kills for ideas." Velthar read it several times. Humans did not just fight for resources or territory like most species. They fought for concepts: freedom, honor, justice, revenge. Ideas that could not be measured or quantified. Ideas worth dying for. He thought about the Galactic Council. Their wars were practical. Territory disputes, resource conflicts, trade disagreements. Things that could be negotiated and resolved. But humans fought for things that could not be negotiated. How could the Council deal with a species like that? As dawn broke over Seoul, Velthar finally understood his unease. Humanity was not just another young species. They were something different, something dangerous, something that had survived their own worst instincts through sheer willpower, and they had only been in space for 3 years. What would they become in 30 years? 300? 3,000? Velthar realized he needed to report this to the Council immediately. But Daeho had arranged one more meeting. A private conversation with Earth's senior diplomat. He decided to wait. One more day. One more chance to understand these strange, terrifying, beautiful creatures, called humans. The morning arrived gray and cloudy. Rain fell softly on Seoul, making the city look different, darker. Velthar watched the water run down his window and thought about everything he had seen. The weapons, the history, the contradictions. Daeho arrived earlier than usual. He wore formal diplomatic robes instead of his usual casual clothing. His expression was serious. "Today you will meet with Mireille," he said. "She is our most senior diplomat. She speaks with the full authority of the United Earth government. This meeting was arranged specifically for you." They traveled through the rainy streets to a building Velthar had not visited before. It was older than the others, built from stone rather than glass and steel. Guards stood at the entrance, but they wore ceremonial uniforms rather than combat gear. Inside, the building felt different, quieter, more formal. Ancient paintings hung on the walls. Artifacts from human history filled display cases. This was a place of importance. Daeho led him to a private chamber on the top floor. The room was simple but elegant. Wooden furniture, paper screens, a low table with cushions for sitting. Rain pattered against the windows. A woman waited inside. She appeared older than Daeho and Ji-won, perhaps in her 60s. Her hair was gray and pulled back severely. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. She wore traditional Korean clothing, elegant and formal. "Ambassador Velthar," she said, bowing deeply. "I am Mireille. Thank you for accepting this meeting." Velthar returned the bow. "The honor is mine." Daeho bowed to both of them and left, closing the door quietly. Velthar was alone with Mireille. She gestured to the cushions. "Please, sit. I have prepared tea." They sat across from each other at the low table. Mireille poured tea from a ceramic pot with practiced movements. The liquid was pale green and smelled of plants. She handed him a cup. "This is called green tea," she said. "It has been drunk in my country for over 1,000 years. It helps clear the mind." It. Velthar sipped carefully. The taste was subtle and slightly bitter. Not unpleasant. "You have seen much during your visit," Mireille said. It was not a question. "Yes," Velthar replied. "Your colleagues have been very thorough, perhaps too thorough." Mireille smiled slightly. "You have seen our weapons, our history, our capacity for violence. This troubles you, should it not?" "Perhaps," Mireille said. She drank her tea slowly. "But I wonder if you understand why we showed you these things." Velthar set down his cup. "General Hyunwoo said you wanted transparency, that you wanted me to know what humanity is capable of." "That is part of it," Mireille agreed. "But there is more. Ambassador, what do you know about Earth itself?" The question confused him. "It is a pleasant planet, abundant water, rich atmosphere, diverse life." Mireille stood and walked to the window. "Earth is what your council would call a death world. Our planet has tried to kill us since the first humans walked upright. Let me tell you what we have survived." She turned to face him. 2 million years ago, our ancestors nearly went extinct. Climate change reduced our population to perhaps 10,000 individuals. We should have died out. We did not. 70,000 years ago, a supervolcano erupted. It darkened the sky for years. The global temperature dropped. Most large animals died. Again, we nearly went extinct. Again, we survived. 13,000 years ago, a meteor struck Earth. It caused mass extinctions, floods, fires. The climate changed radically. We adapted. Mireille began to pace slowly. "Throughout our evolution, Earth has hit us with ice ages, plagues, droughts, storms, earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. Our planet is geologically active. Our weather is violent. Our ecosystem is full of creatures that evolved to kill us." She stopped and looked at Velthar directly. "Do you know what humans are, Ambassador?" We are survivors. We are the species that refuses to die. Earth forged us in fire and ice and blood. We learned to survive by becoming the most adaptable, most persistent, most dangerous species on our world. Velthar felt cold despite the warm tea. You are saying your violence comes from your planet. I am saying our nature comes from necessity, Mireille corrected. When you live on a world that constantly tries to kill you, you become very good at fighting back. We did not choose violence. It chose us. We learned to kill or be killed. She sat down again and poured more tea. But here is what makes humans unique. We did not stop at survival. We looked at our violent nature and asked ourselves if we wanted to remain violent. We chose to evolve beyond our instincts. Yet you still have weapons capable of destroying worlds, Velthar pointed out. Yes, Mireille said, because we understand ourselves. We know that in moments of fear or anger, we might forget our better nature. So we created deterrents, weapons so terrible that using them would be unthinkable. We scare ourselves into peace. She leaned forward. Do you know what happened when we discovered nuclear fission? Within 3 years, we turned it into bombs. Do you know what happened when we decoded our own genetics? Within a decade, we weaponized diseases. Every tool we create, we first imagine as a weapon. It is in our nature. That is terrifying, Velthar said quietly. It is, Mireille agreed. But it is also honest. We do not pretend to be something we are not. We acknowledge our darkness. We teach our children about our violent past. We remember our mistakes, so we do not repeat them. She sipped her tea. That is why we showed you everything. The weapons. The history. The death toll. We want you to understand what humanity is. We are not a peaceful species pretending to be peaceful. We are a violent species, choosing peace. Velthar absorbed this. Outside, the rain fell harder. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Why tell me this? He asked. You must know I will report everything to the Council. That is exactly why, Mireille said. We want the Council to know the truth. We want them to understand that humanity is different from other species they have encountered. She set down her cup and folded her hands. Ambassador, humanity has been at peace for 80 years. That is the longest period without major war in our entire recorded history. Do you know how we achieved this? Fear of nuclear weapons? Partially, Mireille said. But more than that. We finally learned that we were our own worst enemy. That our violence was destroying us faster than any outside threat. So, we made a choice. We decided to direct our energy outward instead of inward. Space exploration, Velthar said. Yes. Space gave us something to strive for together. A new frontier. New challenges. We channel our competitive nature into peaceful expansion. We use our military skills for colonization instead of conquest. We turn our weapons industry into a spacecraft industry. Mireille's expression grew serious. But understand this, Ambassador. Our peace is built on choice, not weakness. We choose to be peaceful because we have learned it serves us better than war. But that choice can change. The statement hung in the air like a threat. Velthar felt his heart beat faster. Are you threatening the Galactic Council? He asked carefully. No, Mireille said firmly. I am being honest with you. If the Council welcomes humanity as equals, we will be loyal members of the galactic community. We will share our knowledge, contribute to peace, become friends and allies. She paused. But if the Council sees us as a threat to be contained or controlled, we will respond. We spent 10,000 years fighting our way to the top of Earth's food chain. We will not submit to anyone else's dominance now. Velthar stood abruptly. You cannot threaten the Council. They have existed for millions of years. They have technologies you cannot imagine. Weapons that make your nuclear bombs look like toys. Mireille remained seated. Calm. Perhaps. But they have never fought humans before. They have never encountered a species that weaponizes everything. that fights with ideas as much as technology, that refuses to surrender even when losing. She stood slowly, gracefully. Do you know what makes humans truly dangerous, Ambassador? Not our weapons, not our violence, our refusal to accept defeat, our ability to adapt to anything, our willingness to sacrifice everything for what we believe in. You fought among yourselves for thousands of years, Velthar said. You nearly destroyed your own world. How can you possibly threaten species that have existed peacefully for millennia? Because we learned from our mistakes, Mireille said simply. We have done terrible things, made every possible error, committed every atrocity. We know all the ways civilization can fail, and we know all the ways to destroy it. She walked to the window again. The Council's species have been peaceful for so long they have forgotten how to truly fight. They have forgotten what desperation looks like, what determination costs, what survival requires. Mireille turned back to him. We have not forgotten. We cannot forget. It is written in our DNA, carved into our bones. We are Earth's children, and Earth taught us to never give up, never surrender, never accept defeat. Velthar felt genuine fear for the first time in his long diplomatic career. This small, elderly human woman was not making idle threats. She was stating facts with the certainty of someone who knew her species' capabilities intimately. What do you want from me? He asked. The truth, Mireille said. Tell the Council what you have seen. Tell them humanity is dangerous. Tell them we are capable of terrible violence. But also tell them we choose peace, that we can be allies if they treat us with respect. She approached him slowly. But warn them, Ambassador. Warn them that if they try to contain us, control us, or attack us, they will regret it. We are not the primitive species they think we are. We are survivors, and survivors do whatever it takes. The meeting ended shortly after. Deho returned and escorted Velthar back to his quarters. Neither spoke during the journey. That night, Velthar sat in darkness and understood. Humanity was not like other species. They were something new, something the galaxy had never encountered. A species born from violence, who chose peace, but never forgot how to fight. And they had only just reached space. In 3 years, they had colonized 6 systems. In 30 years, what would they accomplish? In 300? The Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. Velthar left Earth the next morning. The sky was clear, and Sol sparkled in the sunlight. Deho and Jiwan came to see him off at the landing platform. They smiled and bowed, just as they had when he arrived. Safe travels, Ambassador, Deho said. We hope your report will be favorable. Velthar wanted to respond, but words felt inadequate. What could he say? That their hospitality had been perfect? That their city was beautiful? That their species terrified him more than anything he had encountered in 100 years of diplomacy? He simply bowed and boarded his ship. The journey back to the Galactic Council station took 8 days. Velthar spent every moment of that time reviewing his notes, watching recorded footage from his visit, and trying to organize his thoughts. He needed to prepare a report. The Council would expect clear answers. Was humanity dangerous? Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Should they be welcomed into the galactic community? He did not know. Could they be controlled if they became a threat? He doubted it. The questions circled endlessly in his mind. He tried to write his report a dozen times. Each version felt wrong. How could he explain what he had witnessed? How could he make the Council understand? On the 6th day, he received a transmission from Earth. It was from Mireille. Her face appeared on his screen, calm and composed. Ambassador Velthar, I wanted to send you something before you make your report. A gift, of sorts. Something to remember us by. The transmission included a data file. Velthar opened it cautiously. It contained videos, hundreds of them, footage from throughout human history. He watched ancient humans hunting mammoths with stone-tipped spears. Small, fragile creatures, facing animals 10 times their size. They should have been prey. Instead, they were predators. He watched primitive armies clashing with swords and shields. Thousands dying for kings and gods, and ideas he could barely comprehend. The violence was personal and brutal. No distance. No mercy. He watched the world wars. Mechanized death on a scale that made his stomach turn. Machine guns cutting down soldiers by the hundreds. Bombers reducing cities to ash. Submarines hunting ships beneath the waves. Millions dead. Entire generations lost. But between the violence, he saw other things. Humans building pyramids. Painting masterpieces. Writing symphonies. Creating philosophy and science. Curing diseases. Feeding the hungry. Protecting the weak. One video showed a human doctor working in a war zone. She treated injured soldiers from both sides without discrimination. When asked why she helped her enemies, she said simply, "Because they are human. And I am a doctor." Another showed a man standing in front of military tanks, blocking their path with his body alone. One fragile human, stopping an army through sheer courage. The tanks could have crushed him easily. They did not. Velthar watched humans saving each other from floods and fires. He watched them protest injustice and fight for freedom. He watched them explore their world, push boundaries, reach for the stars. The final video showed Earth from space. The blue planet rotating, slowly, peaceful, and beautiful. A human voice narrated, "This is our home. The only one we have. We have hurt it, hurt each other, made terrible mistakes. But we are learning, growing. We are not perfect. We may never be perfect, but we try. Every day, we try to be better than we were yesterday." The transmission ended with Mirai's face returning. "This is humanity, Ambassador. All of it. The violence and the beauty. The darkness and the light. We do not ask you to ignore our flaws. We only ask that you see all of us. Not just our weapons. Not just our wars. But our capacity for love, art, sacrifice, and hope." She bowed deeply. "Whatever you report to your council, thank you for listening." The screen went dark. Velthar sat in silence for a long time. Outside his ship, stars drifted past. Cold, distant, eternal. But Earth was different. Earth was alive in a way he had never encountered before. Chaotic and passionate and completely unpredictable. On the 8th day, he arrived at the council station. The familiar sight should have comforted him. Instead, it felt cold and lifeless compared to Seoul's bustling streets. He was summoned immediately to the council chamber. All 23 members waited, eager for his report. Thulrax's mental voice greeted him warmly. "Welcome back, Ambassador. We have been anticipating your findings." Velthar walked to the center of the chamber. The circular room suddenly felt oppressive. 23 pairs of eyes watching him, waiting for answers. "Ambassador Veltar," Thulrax continued, "please present your assessment of humanity. Are they suitable for membership in the galactic community? Do they pose a threat? What are your recommendations?" Velthar opened his mouth to speak. He had prepared this speech, organized his thoughts. He knew what he needed to say, but no words came. His mind flooded with images. Daeho's polite smile. Jiwon's casual mention of 6 colonized systems. The child in the marketplace asking if he had friends. The monument covered in millions of names. General Hyunwoo explaining weapons that could destroy continents. Mirai's calm voice saying, "We are survivors. And survivors do whatever it takes." He thought about the videos. The hunter facing the mammoth. The doctor treating enemies. The man standing before tanks. The voice saying, "Every day, we try to be better." How could he explain this to the council? These ancient beings who had forgotten what desperation felt like, who had enjoyed peace for so long they thought it was natural, who believed civilization was about control and order and stability. They would not understand. They could not understand. Humanity was something outside their experience. A species that should not exist, that had survived against impossible odds by becoming the universe's most dangerous predator, and then had chosen to be peaceful. But that choice was voluntary, temporary, conditional. If the council threatened them, that choice would end. And Velthar had seen enough to know what would happen next. Ambassador? Thulrax prompted. What is your assessment? Velthar's hands began to tremble. He had negotiated with warlords and tyrants, faced down pirates and madmen, but nothing had prepared him for this. For explaining the inexplicable, the Scarax representative spoke up. The silence is concerning. Surely you formed some opinion during your visit. Velthar started. His voice sounded hollow in his own ears. Humanity is. He stopped. How could he say it? That humanity was a sleeping giant, a tiger pretending to be domesticated, a species held back only by their own moral choice, which could change at any moment. Humanity is different, he finally said. Different from any species we have encountered. Different how? Another council member asked. Are they primitive? Advanced? Aggressive? Peaceful? All of those, Velthar said. And none of them. They are contradictions. The council members exchanged glances. Thulrax's mental voice carried confusion. You must be more specific. Ambassador. Are they a threat? Velthar closed his eyes. He saw Mireille's face, heard her words. We are a violent species, choosing peace. Yes, he whispered. The chamber erupted in discussion, multiple voices speaking at once. But Velthar was not finished. They are a threat because they choose not to be, he said louder, cutting through the noise. They possess weapons that could destroy us. Technology advancing faster than should be possible. An expansion rate we cannot match. And most terrifying of all, they have nothing left to lose. What do you mean? Thulrax asked. They nearly destroyed themselves, Velthar said. They came within moments of total extinction, multiple times. They know what the end looks like. They have already faced their worst fears and survived. Death does not frighten them the way it frightens us. He looked around at the council members. We have built this civilization over millions of years. We are cautious because we have much to lose. Humanity has been spacefaring for 3 years. They have nothing but forward momentum. If we threaten them, they will fight. And they will fight in ways we cannot imagine. The Scarax representative hissed. Then we must contain them now, before they spread further, before they become too powerful to stop. No! Velthar's voice cracked. That is exactly what we must not do. They are peaceful now. They want to join us, to cooperate. But if we try to contain them, we will confirm their worst fears. That the galaxy sees them as threats to be eliminated. Then what do you recommend? Thulrax asked. Velthar took a deep breath. This was the most important recommendation of his career. Humanity should be left alone, given space to develop, watched from a distance, but not interfered with. You mean ignore them? Someone asked incredulously. I mean respect them, Velthar said. Do not provoke them. Do not threaten them. Do not try to control them. Let them expand at their own pace. In time, they may become valuable allies. But if we push them now, while they are still young and afraid, we will create an enemy we cannot defeat. The chamber fell silent. Finally, Thulrax spoke. This is unprecedented. You are recommending we avoid an entire species out of fear? I am recommending we avoid them out of wisdom, Velthar corrected. Fear is temporary. Wisdom endures. And wisdom says that some species are better as friends than enemies. The council debated for hours. Velthar stood in the center, answering questions when asked, but mostly remaining silent. His eyes held a look that disturbed the other council members. A hollowness, a terror he could not fully express. Finally, they voted. Humanity would be classified as an independent species. No formal contact would be initiated. They would be monitored, but not approached. The galaxy would watch Earth from a safe distance and wait to see what humanity became. After the session ended, Velthar returned to his quarters. He stood at his window, looking out at the neutron star's deadly beauty. He thought about Sol's lights, about humans walking peacefully through their streets, completely unaware of how close they had come to galactic intervention. He had saved them. And perhaps saved the galaxy as well. But at what cost? He had lied to the Council. Not about humanity's capabilities. Those were real. But about his own certainty. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. He had no idea what humanity would become. They were unpredictable, chaotic, capable of both great kindness and terrible cruelty. They were something new in the universe. And Velthar had no idea if letting them spread unchecked was wisdom or the greatest mistake he had ever made. Over the following weeks, Velthar tried to return to his normal duties, but he found he could no longer perform them with his previous confidence. Every diplomatic negotiation felt meaningless compared to what he had experienced on Earth. Other diplomats noticed the change. They asked what had happened. What had he seen? Velthar would smile and say nothing. How could he explain? How could he tell them he had met humanity's future, and it terrified him? At night, he dreamed of Earth, of Sol's lights, of Deho's polite smile hiding terrible knowledge, of Mireille's calm voice speaking truth that would shake the galaxy. And always, always, he heard the words, "Every day, we try to be better than we were yesterday." Velthar had made his report. The Council had made their decision. Humanity would be left alone to grow at their own pace. And so, Ambassador Velthar, the galaxy's greatest diplomat, who had negotiated peace across 100 worlds, returned to the Council in silence. He had completed his mission, made his recommendation, but his eyes remained filled with terror, because he alone understood what was coming, what humanity would become. And he knew that one day, the galaxy would have to face them. Again, he just hoped they would be ready.